Dragi gledaoci, dobrodošli u još jednu epizodu emisije Diplomata. Naš današnji sagovornik je gospodin Mišel Sen Lot, bivši direktor kancelarije UNICEF-a u Republici Srbiji. Mr. Sen Lot, thank you for taking the time off your day to speak with us and give us this opportunity to talk about your career, but also the work of UNICEF as well.
Thank you. Thank you for receiving me.
Of course.
And thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak one more time with my Serbian friends here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on our show. Now, starting off, Mr. Sen Lot, during your years leading UNICEF in Serbia, what achievements stood out to you the most, even now, several years later after that?
I would say three areas stand out for me during my time in UNICEF in Serbia. And first, I will say it was not only me, it was me and my team, because the team of UNICEF in Serbia is an outstanding team. Three areas. One was the flood of 2014. During the time of the flood, there was kind of a panic just after the flood, what to be done. And UNICEF stand out right away to support the government in the post-disaster need assessment, but after that also to ensure that we take all action necessary in order for children to resume school by October of 2014, the same year. We supported more than 10,000 children with all the supplies and equipment needed to go back to school, but we also supported families that were vulnerable and in need during that time. And for me, that remained something that is vivid in my memory, to see people who are desperate, you give them the chance of hope that life can resume as normal. The second area that stands out for me, it's the 2015 refugee crisis. When in August 2015, the number of refugees started increasing, even the world was not willing to see that there was something happening in Syria. Until that kid died in Turkey, in the beach, and the press shows that image and the world realized there is a crisis. But Serbia was one of the key entry points, where 800,000 refugees entered Serbia between September 2015 to December, 800,000. As UNICEF, we were able to help and assist the government. Together, we worked to establish child-friendly space and space for mother. And we helped more than 80,000 children in 3 months' time with clothing, footwear, but also ensuring that they have access to health, education on the move, and safe space for protection. Lactating mother had space where they can really take care of the children. So for us, it was an outstanding achievement at a time when no one was prepared for that type of response. But it was thanks due to the good collaboration between UNICEF and its government partners.
Absolutely, and these achievements are very important, and they really highlight the importance of the work of UNICEF.
Yes, and I would say also the Commissariat of Refugees in Ministry of Social Welfare were really supportive of what we are doing, because we had experience like that in other countries. So they were able to accept our experiences and make sure that it's adapted to Serbian reality. The third area that stands out for me during my time here was also the work we did on early childhood development and early childhood education. The focus was mostly to ensure that every child developed to his full potential and be useful in society. So our focus was also supporting mostly children, vulnerable children, children with disabilities, children with difficulties. And that was an area for us that was of paramount importance, that together with the different ministries, an area that was embraced. And for me, it's one of the areas that was sticking in my mind as an important work we did during that period.
Yes, that's very impressive. Mr. Sen Lot, could you also share with us what were your impressions of Serbia as a country during your time here, especially compared to your maybe other missions?
What struck me by time in Serbia, I will give an anecdote. When I was appointed for Serbia, UNICEF headquarters, some people believe that I will not succeed because I was black. The idea was someone of color cannot work in Serbia because the Serbian society was racist. And my position was, no, UNICEF HR was having racist position by already assuming that I will not succeed. So for almost 60 years, no one of color was appointed in that region because someone presumed it will not work. So when I came here, what I found out is people were willing to work, collaborate. I found respect, good professionalism, And even at time when we disagree, we did find common ground when it comes to children issues. And for me, that was my 5 years here. That was 5 years of good collaboration with respect and dialogue. The second thing that struck me here was during my time is the collaboration I found with the Serbian parliament. We were given space to address parliament. I was addressing parliament almost twice a year to discuss children issue, showing the commitment given to bring children issues in the policy framework of the government of Serbia. Regardless of the achievement per se, but already the step that the parliamentarians were willing to give us the space to discuss with them children issue was for me something important that you don't find in every country. The third element that also was important for me in Serbia was the way the private sector and the press embrace or work for children. Be it Diplomacy&Commerce, for example, where you have a special issue called In Focus, celebrating our 70 years in Serbia, a full issue at no cost for us, that those media outlets spend their own money to ensure that either special issue or middle pages where they could have those pages for advertisement were given for children issues. Whatever it's Priva, television, RTS as a good partner, Nedjenik, Vreme, Politika had special issue for years on a monthly basis to address children issue and giving us that space to be able to present our strategies or to tackle issues to ensure that vulnerable children have a better space to live in Serbia. We have also the private sector. I can cite a few of them without mentioning all of them, but we have Commercial Bank, Raiffeisen Bank, the Central Bank of Serbia even. We have also Nordeus. They were all partners. Even hotels, Metropole, Square 9, they were all raising funds to support UNICEF. And for us, it was UNICEF. They were supporting Serbian children. We are just only the instrument, the voice of those children. And I will fail if I don't mention the support we did find here with 3 outstanding child rights advocates in Serbia: Ana Ivanovic, Novak Djokovic, and Sasha Djordjevic, that lend their voice and their notoriety to advance child rights in Serbia. For me, those were very important moments and actors that play a major role in what we are doing in Serbia.
Yes, and it really does show that everyone needs to be involved.
There was space for everyone, private sector, public sector, individuals.
Absolutely. And are there any innovations from your UNICEF career that you think could be still applied today widely around the globe?
I had a chance when I was working in India around 2004, 2005. We developed the team of UNICEF in Hyderabad in India, which is southern part of India. We developed the first program of telemedicine, October 2004, where people who normally had no access to public health or to health infrastructure were able, 24 hours, have access to medical advice. And when needed, they will be taken care of by the public services, who will send an ambulance within 15 minutes to go and get them and get them to wherever they could be cared for. And for us, when you saw today, telemedicine is everywhere. We're talking about now, 22, 23 years ago, where our team started that 24 hours a day. The second element has been the digital people empowerment. Using cell phone at the time, there was no smartphone, but we're using cell phone as a way people could send messages, particularly the people who are vulnerable people or people who have no access to public authorities. They are able to address the authority, to bring their grievance, and to seek redress. That was the first program of the time, or again, it was around 2005. So that program was set up in Andhra Pradesh with support of companies like HP, Hewlett-Packard, as a pioneering, and Nokia. So we advanced that program, which after that was multiplied in several other states of India, including Gujarat, where Narendra Modi, the actual Prime Minister, took that program in Gujarat and implemented it in the whole state. within 3 years' time, more than 200 million people were using that program to address,
It's such a
to
big
bring their
impact.
concern
Yes.
to the authority. So that shows that digital and innovation and IT and digital empowerment can be a tool to help people to express themselves, to seek support, but also it's a tool to bring government to become accountable to the people.
And even today, 20 years later, digital empowerment still is something that constantly needs to be worked on as
Yes.
technology evolves.
Having everything now in the public domain, having everything publicly available, it forces government to become more accountable. But that's for the citizen to keep asking, requesting that level of accountability and transparency.
Now, every director of UNICEF in any country probably has to face a certain challenge of balancing political realities of that country with the humanitarian imperatives of UNICEF. How have you yourself personally tackled that challenge?
Well, I came from a country where politics is in everyday's life. But I came also from a family which is a political family, back since the 1800s. What I've learned from that is two things: is communication, dialogue, and respect. Ensuring that each party understood each other's position and each other's needs. And through dialogue and respect, how do you can reconcile both my position and my needs such a way that both parties can achieve their own objective in respect, but in a win-win conversation. And for me, that was a very important political act, in balancing those dialogue. Second, also understanding the political environment in which you're evolving, because you're not evolving in a vacuum. So what is at stake for each party? But keeping one thing in mind, that the best of interest of children for us was non-negotiable. And that whatever the outcome should be in favor of children's well-being.
This is uncompromisable.
Uncompromising. And when both parties agree with that basic principle, you will always find at least a common ground to reach that objective where children will be the first beneficiaries.
You also, during your time in UNICEF, championed programs regarding Roma families. Are there any lessons that you learned from that process that could be helpful to Serbia today? Because this still is an issue that's active.
When I arrived in Serbia, there was a program called Roma Health Mediators. That's my predecessor and the team in the office started. And I embraced it because I found it was a very solid strategy and solid approach by ensuring that Roma issues were being tackled by Roma themselves. Unfortunately, as of today, 2026, those Roma health mediators has not been integrated into the health system. They are still given short-term contract. At the time, it used to be a 1 or 2, 3 months contract. So for some reason, the system is not still giving them the opportunity to play the full role. Because it's very difficult for a non-Roma to really to be sensitive and understand. You may can understand it, but you'll never be able to feel like a Roma. We believe that only people issued from the Roma society can really contribute and understand the cultural background and sensitivity and bring change in their own society. So they must be given space because before everything else, they're Serbian. So they're in their country. So they need space to address their issue in a more cultural and more sensitive way. But it's unfortunate as of today, after 26 years, they're still not being given the space needed to fulfill their duty.
Yes, I see. And thank you for that response, Mr. Sen Lot. Could you also tell us about something that you highlighted in the past, and this is nonviolent communication early in a child's life. Do you see governments approaching to this topic seriously today?
Yes, I will say that I was pleased, even by the time I was here and even today, there has been many legal instruments that have been put in place to ban violence. For example, corporal punishment is officially banned. Early marriage, which is one of the worst forms of violence against children, is also, there are different legal instruments that's been put together. But unfortunately, those instruments are either not officially being signed or being put forward. They're there, but there's still a missing element to make it more formal. But the most important part of any legal instrument is implementation. To ensure full implementation, full respect, and educating the people on all those instruments.
Yes, and without implementation, the framework is just a letter
It's just
on
a
paper.
piece of paper.
Yes, of course.
But I think that I've heard the discourse. Even when I was here, there was several articles in newspaper when children were beaten in school. One of them was almost beaten to death. When that created a public outcry, and those elements were important to highlight. The people were recognition that indeed this is something that needs to be changed.
Yes. Now, from your vantage point as a former director of UNICEF, how do you evaluate UNICEF's ability to reduce inequality when averages often hide some deep disparities?
I think one of the biggest tools that UNICEF has put in place as in the, let's say, mid-90s or end of the 90s is called the Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey that people call usually MIX. It's a survey that takes place every 5 years that has a very strong sample size that can really give you information on what's going on in the society. That survey enables us to look at disparities that usually national statistics mask. So you have, in Serbia, we did a specific survey, and Serbia was one of the only country that allowed us to do specific sample size on the Roma population.
Wow. And Serbia was the only country.
Because usually you don't discriminate people in the survey. But Serbia realized that there was an issue that needed to be tackled, so we're able to look at more in depth what happens in the Roma society. So that gives you information on who are the most deprived people, who are the most people who are the most at risk, which one are the most vulnerable children, so that way you can address specific issues regarding this group. And I think for me, it's one of the most important tools that we have as of today that can help us really bring issue forward and help us as government to do better planning, better budgeting. And indeed, Serbia, like also countries like India, has been doing more and more child budgeting, which means looking at the budget with the children lens to see, are we addressing children issue when we put that budget? Although some politicians will say that, well, when we build a bridge, it's for everyone, even children can use it. This is not child budgeting. This is what is the investment you're really making to ensure that the children who are at risk, is vulnerable, are targeted and benefit from that program directly. Absolutely. So that tool, and I believe in 2026 now, there will be a mix this year again in Serbia that will help us to understand what progress has been made in the past 5 years. When politicians say they have achieved certain thing, that's the only tool who can measure what they had said they would be doing when they're elected and what is being done. Because then you have really numbers that you can sit and hold those numbers because they're credible numbers. It's being done with the Statistic Office of Serbia, not created by UNICEF, the national institution, that can help people to really understand and judge what has been done with taxpayers' money, what has been done in the past 5 years, what was promises and what was delivered. For us, this is a tool to give us the credibility on when we have discourse to address an issue, we have a sound basis. We have facts and figures.
And the numbers do play a big role.
The numbers,
in that.
People say statistics you can play them the way you want. But the myth is done in a way that it's difficult to play with those numbers because the numbers tell you where you are.
Absolutely. Now, as someone who's once led UNICEF in Serbia, today you're witnessing a crisis that's happening in your own homeland, in Haiti, where the country has been faced with collapse and economical crisis as well. How do you personally view Haiti's challenges, and what role can international organizations play in supporting its recovery in the future?
Haiti is living a multidimensional crisis, which is mostly compounded, is humanitarian, with today, almost 6 million people who are in the verge of famine, no access to food once every 2 days. You have a political crisis. You have no election for the past 10 years of parliament or senate or anyone elected, no elected official in the country for the past 5 years. a crisis of security. 85% of the capital is controlled by gangs, and the gangs are receiving the guns from outside. We don't produce guns, we don't produce ammunition. And the kids from the slum who can barely have €1 to eat are carrying 20,000 euros machine guns. So who is bringing those guns? Who is financing them? Whose interests that? And those gangs has been destroying everything. Every university faculty has been destroyed. They burned down hospital. They burned down 1,800 schools. They're destroying neighborhood. Poor people destroying the poor neighborhood. So who is behind it? On whose interest? Our president was assassinated in 2021. Recently in Florida, the trial of 4 people that were arrested and extradited to the United States, they have been judged and they have been condemned for life in prison. 2 of them were actual informants from the FBI and the DEA. They were Colombian or Venezuelan of American passport, came down to Haiti with 21 Colombians and killed the president. So I will not comment more on that part.
Yes, it's certainly a tough
But
crisis.
when you ask me what the international community can do,
Yes.
2010 earthquake, where we lost 350,000 people in less than 40 seconds. The whole capital was destroyed. 1 million people lost their home. We saw an outpour of support for Haiti. Unfortunately, I will say 8 out of 10 of the funding sent for Haiti never reached the people. Most of that money remained in the hand of organizations and in papers. Be it the Clinton Foundation or the Red Cross, everything they promised they will be doing, nothing never achieved. The American Red Cross, of the 500 million they raised for Haiti, they kept 250 million in the US for themselves. But in the eyes of the public, money was raised for Haiti. Haitians didn't do anything with the money. We never really received that money. So it's time for the international community to really reflect. What has been their role in the collapse of Haiti? They need a clear and honest introspection to find out all those years they're deciding for Haiti, from Washington, from New York, from Paris, without Haitian people. It's time for them to leave us, take our own decision, rightly or wrongly. But let us take our decision. Let's make sure that our sovereignty is respected. The voice of the people is being heard. Even our actual prime minister was imposed by France, US, and Canada in January this year. They forced the prime minister. It was take it or leave it. And someone that the whole population doesn't want. But every time we try to push them out, then you have the Mr. Rubio or the rest, or Mr. Trump, they will say, this is our man.
Now, looking at the future, while we're talking about the role of international organizations, what should be the priorities of UNICEF, both here in Serbia and globally in the future?
The role of international organization is shifting. And I would say the role of the UN should shift. As you would have seen, the whole context of international law, is there really international law anymore? When one country can unilaterally take decision to bomb another country or to invade another country.
Without any repercussion.
So the role of the UN, of Security Council, where 5 members still have veto right, when that time is we're no longer in 1945. It's time for things to change. So even the role of UNICEF we need to rethink the role of UNICEF. But one thing remains certain: UNICEF should remain the independent and respectful voice to defend interests of children and vulnerable population. That should be our key role remaining. And our moral authority depends on our capacity to dialogue with government in a respectful manner, but independent manner, to ensure that children's rights, whoever violated, be it individual, community, institution, government, be made accountable. We should remain that independent voice, independent advocate for children. And for me, this is the major role we can play, regardless if it's a middle-income country or a high-income country. Because even in the US or in France, there are children's rights being violated. So UNICEF has the obligation to remain a voice in any society to bring children issue at the forefront, to ensure that every child's rights are being respected wherever they are and whoever they are.
Absolutely. Thank you for that message, Mr. Sen Lot, and thank you once again for taking the time off your day to join us at our show.
Well, the pleasure is all for me, and I'm, as usual, enjoying Serbia, all the friends I made in Serbia. It's a country where me and my family, we come back every year.
Oh, really? Yes.
And there's also the fantastic tango festival in Serbia. One of the countries who organize one of the largest tango festival every year with 2,000 dancers. So what do you expect? I have to be there.
We'll assume we'll see you there. Yes, and thank you once again. Really, it was a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you very much.
A našim dragim gledaocima, hvala vam na pažnji. Gledali ste razgovor sa gospodinom Mišelom Sen Lotom, nekadašnjim direktorom UNICEF-a u Republici Srbiji. Ostanite uz nas jer dalje idu diplomatski događaji.
Dan Portugala, Kamoiša i portugalskih zajednica svečano je obeležen u konaku kneginje Ljubice. Slaveći Kamoiša kao pesnika, slavi se i portugalski, službeni jezik u 9 država, sa više od 250 miliona govornika širom sveta koji su okupljeni u zajednici zemalja portugalskog govornog područja.
Ova zajednica ove godine obeležava 30 godina postojanja i okuplja brojne posmatrače, među kojima je i Srbija. U Srbiji se portugalski jezik može učiti na univerzitetima u Beogradu i Novom Sadu. Dan Portugala je zvanično i dan portugalskih zajednica, odnosno naše dijaspore. Zato želim da pozdravim portugalske državljane koji rade, studiraju i žive u Srbiji i koji su dobro integrisani u društvo, snažno doprinose njenom ekonomskom i društvenom razvoju. Iako je ekonomska i trgovinska saradnja između Portugala i Srbije, koju snažno postičemo, još uvek ima mnogo prostora za rast i unapređenje. Sa zadovoljstvom primećujemo da sve veći broj srpskih i portugalskih turista posećuje obe zemlje. Tome doprinose i direktni letovi koji povezuju Beograd sa Lisabonom i Portom.
Jedan od najvećih nacionalnih praznika Portugalaca obeležava se na datum smrti epskog pesnika Luisa de Camoiša, čije ime nosi i Institut Camões koji se bavi međunarodnom saradnjom Portugala, kao i promocijom portugalskog jezika i kulture. Izložbom slovačke četkice autoportreti slovačkih slikara u galeriji 73 u Beogradu svečano je otvorena manifestacija Dani slovačke kulture. Postavka obuhvata prikaze iz zbirke zaljubljenika u autoportrete i vajara Vojteha Loflera iz Košica.
Neka od izloženih dela su prvi put prešla prag matičnog muzeja u Košici. Izložba se sastoji od 34 autoportreta, a nastala u periodu između dve svetske rata pa do kraja 20. veka, pružajući jedinstven uvid i razvoj slovačke likovne scene tokom gotovo 7 decenija. Predstavljena dela kojima je bilo zajedničko to da su Slovaci izvorni ili vojvođanski, mladi ili stari, muškarci i žene, ravnopravni.
Prema najavama ambasadora Pavuka, ove godine biće pokrenute i aktivnosti sa ciljem podizanja svesti i oživljavanja sećanja na Kirila Kutlika, slovačkog slikara, pedagoga i osnivača prve srpske crtačke i slikarske škole u Beogradu 1895. godine. Njegov pedagoški rad omogućio je školovanje generacija umetnika koji su nastavili da oblikuju srpsku likovnu scenu i u decenijama koje su usledile. Izložba će biti otvorena do 30. juna, a realizovana je u saradnji sa ambasadom Slovačke u Srbiji, muzejom Vojteha Loflera iz Košica, regionalnim centrom za Zapadni Balkan i galerijom 73, a uz podršku opštine Čukarica. Predstavljanjem filatelističke poštanske marke Pošta Srbije i ambasada Meksika u Srbiji svečano su u PTT muzeju u Beogradu obeležile 80. godišnjicu uspostavljanja diplomatskih odnosa između Srbije i Meksika. Na personalizovanoj marki prikazani su Narodni muzej Srbije u Beogradu i Palata lepih umetnosti u Meksiko Citiju, kao prepoznatljivi simboli kulturnog nasleđa dveju država.
Ovo je jedan od istorijskih otisaka u odnosima Meksika i Srbije i predstavlja 8 decenija prijateljstva, saradnji i obostranog poštovanja, snage i veza između naših naroda. Posle 80 godina Meksiko i Srbija su uspostavili veliko razumevanje i politički dijalog. Meksiko je uvek izražavao punu podršku po pitanju teritorijalnog integriteta Srbije, vezano za južnu srpsku pokrajinu, Kosovo i Metohija. Takođe, naši narodi su razvili jedinstvenu kulturnu saradnju preko muzike, fudbala, telenovela i raznih akademskih razmena.
Personalizovana poštanska marka mnogo je više od prigodnog filatelističkog izdanja. Ona je jedinstveni simbol kulturne povezanosti i neraskidivih veza dva naroda, bez obzira na geografsku udaljenost.
Vidite kako ni daljina između dve zemlje, između Meksika i Srbije, ponekad ne predstavlja što bi rekli prepreku za dobre odnose. Male zemalja sa kojima možemo da govorimo o diplomatskim odnosima 8 decenija, 10, 12, ali Meksiko spada u red tih zemalja koje imaju tako dugi period, ili Srbija koja ima tako dugi period sa jednom državom, prelepom državom.
Predstavljanje jedinstvene poštanske marke samo je jedan u nizu događaja isplaniranih povodom velikog diplomatskog jubileja između Meksika i Srbije, koji neguju prijateljske odnose od davne 1946. godine.